Yes, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
A very good morning to everybody and a very warm welcome to this international conference on globalization of professional legal education,
Yes, sir.
constitutional
Go ahead. Go ahead.
conspectus, which is being held in an online
A
mode
very good
this year
morning to
due to the
everybody
pandemic.
and a very
It is
warm
indeed our
welcome to
honor
this
and a
international
privilege that Shri
conference
Ravi
on
Shankar Prasad
globalization
ji,
of professional
Honorable
legal
Minister for
education,
Law and Justice,
constitutional.
Communications, Electronics and IT, Government of India, has agreed to deliver the inaugural address. Sir, we welcome you to Bennett University, and your presence here today reiterates the importance of this discussion today. We also have with us Ravi ma'am, our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Prabhu Agarwal, our Dean, Nuzhat Parveen Khan ma'am, and deans of various other schools at Bennett University. Joining us today are also dignitaries on this virtual panel, participants from various law schools and universities from across the country, colleagues and students. And on behalf of School of Law, Bennett University, and my own behalf, I warmly welcome all those present here. The National Education Policy 2020, the third to be adopted by the country, is a radical step in changing the higher education landscape in the country. This policy could substantially alter the dynamics of higher education in India through entry of world's top universities into the higher education sector and turn India into an education hub in Asia. However, it also challenges the world's most diverse democracy to look at ways to ensure protection and promotion of constitutional and cultural values in the wake of privatization, globalization, and commercialization of education. This conference today will be discussing and debating this important theme. As we begin the proceedings of this day, may I request Professor Dr. Nuzhat Parveen Khan, our Dean at School of Law, Bennett University, who's an academician with over 28 years of experience in the teaching field, to introduce the speaker to take the ceremony forward. Dean ma'am, you're muted.
Am I audible now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, Minister of Law and Justice, Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Mr. Vineet Jain, Chancellor, Bennett University and Managing Director, Bennett Coleman and Company Limited. Professor Dr. Prabhu Agarwal, Vice Chancellor, Bennett University. Ms. Ravi Jain, ma'am, Board Member, Bennett University. Mr. Sudhanshu, COO, Bennett University, all respected dignitaries present, participants, faculty members, and my dear students. A very good morning to all. On behalf of School of Law, Bennett University, I take this opportunity to welcome Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, Sir, to this international conference on globalization of professional legal education, constitutional conspectus. As we know, India's new education policy is a very important step in changing the higher education in the country. And the most important changes is its aims to create a global education environment in the country. This policy will open the doors to foreign universities in India and promote the idea of globalized legal education. So today, through this conference, we will deliberate on different dimensions and themes of the new education policy. And keeping this in mind, the conference has invited scholars, academicians, and practitioners from India and from different countries to discuss and deliberate on the best practices in their countries and universities regarding globalization and internalization of the education. We are privileged and honored to have Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, Honorable Minister for Law and Justice and Communication and Information Technology in the Government of India for this conference as the chief guest of the occasion as well as a keynote speaker. Honorable Minister is an eminent lawyer and a senior advocate in the Supreme Court of India. He is a member of Parliament since the year 2000. Under his able stewardship, legislation to criminalize instant triple talaq was enacted, giving justice and relief to innumerable Muslim women. The credit for revolution of the information technology field and promotion of digital services in India can be directly attributed to him. In his capacity as the Union Minister for Communications, he is vigorously pursuing the ways and means to revamp the government-owned telecom companies. The Honorable Minister advocates a truly democratic internet government where free and open internet is easily accessible to all. Under his able steward leadership, affordable internet connectivity has penetrated into the remotest corner of this country. He has led to widespread availability of key services such as education, healthcare, banking, etc. His proactive approach immensely helped the country in efficiently managing lives and lifestyles during the pandemic and even finding new avenues for growth. Shri Prasad continues to play a key role in the development and implementation of Digital India, a Government of India's flagship program that envisions transforming India into a digitally empowered, financially inclusive society and a knowledge economy. He is also leading India's development as a global electronic manufacturing hub. As a parliamentarian, Shri Prasad has been a member of various important parliamentary committees such as Finance Committee, Communication and Information Technology, Petroleum and Chemicals, to name a few. He has represented India at various fora, including the United Nations. As an eminent lawyer and a designated senior advocate at the Supreme Court of India, Shri Prasad has appeared in various legal matters of national importance. He has also served as a minister in the Government of India from 2001 to 2004, when he took major initiatives that included, amongst others, promoting Indian cinema and reforming India's electoral system. Since his student days, Shri Prasad has championed the cause of civil liberties and human rights, campaigning for freedom of press, eradication and corruption, individual liberty, etc. Sir's writings on contemporary legal and constitutional issues regularly get published in leading newspapers. Sir sees the development of a digital ecosystem as an opportunity for law students to pursue careers in emerging innovative areas as the confluence of law and technology. With these words, I would like to welcome Honorable Sir, invite you to give the inaugural keynote address at our international conference, and Sir, to request you to please launch the conference booklet to inaugurate this international conference. Thank you very much. Sir.
My good friend and the Chancellor of Bennett University, Mr. Vinit Jain, Dr. Prabhukumar Agarwal, Vice Chancellor of the University, Mr. Ravi Jain, Member of the Board of the University, and Professor Nuzhat Parveen Khan, Dean of the Law of the University. I'm truly grateful that on such an extraordinary, important issue, which you are deliberating today, I've been asked to give my thought and also inaugurate it. I appreciate the kind words of the Dean about my introduction. We are talking of a globalized world and the challenges of legal education in a globalized world as outlined by the new education policy. But see the contrast. When the global world seeks to remove the boundaries, there came Corona, which forced us to erect boundaries. The stop movement. People remain inside their house because of lockdown. And who knows, the second wave stares at our face. These are mighty challenges which keeps on reiterating from time to time that nature has its own design. You talk of the global world, nature forces and inward world. Whenever we discuss these things, I thought I need to flag it. And there comes the power of technology. I remember when India was in lockdown, there was no rail, there was no plane movement, there was no highway movement. But one has to keep the country going. And then we leverage the power of technology. And because the Digital India program has laid the roadmap for that, it came in handy. Ultimately, we invoke the power of mobile phone, landline phone, internet, IT operations to keep the country going and united. The first question arose as to how the work will go on, particularly in the IT sector. India is a big center of IT operation. And today we are also talking digitally, virtually, not physically. In fact, virtual interaction has become the norm globally. Then, in good interaction with them, we completely changed the norms from work from home by removing all the regulatory restrictions which were there, dissuading you from working from home. And 85% of India's IT operations went uninterrupted by way of work from home. It's still going. I removed all the restrictions and liberalized it completely. Then our Prime Minister was kind enough to tell me, Ravi, now work from home should be elevated to work from anywhere. And now work from anywhere has become the norm. India has clearly chosen a march globally. The second challenge came, ladies and gentlemen, as to the use of technology in accelerating the measures to contain corona, and then targeted messaging to the people who are in isolation. And thereafter, in coordination with the state government, to help people give due messaging of proactive measures to be taken, how to remain in quarantine. And then Arogya Setu app, you all know that. There is 13 crore people use technology to remain on guard if you have come in contact with someone who has been afflicted. Then you please be on guard. These are some of the challenges and the responses which we could deliver. Why? Because we had laid the foundation of Digital India. And since I'm talking to also a global audience, I'm told, what is Digital India, simply put? Digital India is designed to empower ordinary Indians with the power of technology. Number one. Number two, bridge the digital divide. And number three, bring in digital inclusion. And this must be achieved through technology which is homegrown, developmental, and low cost. How we are able to achieve it? Because this will have a direct bearing on the new education policy vis-a-vis law, which I will reflect subsequently. And also the new areas requiring proper legal education impinging upon technology. So that is going to be a theme of my address today. Now kindly see Aadhaar. India's population 1.35 billion, nearly mobile phone 1.20 billion, approximately, internet 700 million, a smartphone 700 million, moving computers. We linked all this with Aadhaar, the digital identity, to confirm the physical identity. And we started sending all the welfare measures to bank account of the poor, the state government, central government, in relation to nearly 440 schemes. And one number I would like to share with you, those numbers are fascinating number, ladies and gentlemen. We disbursed 13 lakh crore, 175 billion in the last 5.5 years, directly to the bank account of the poor, which we call DBT. And we have saved 1.78 lakh crore, $24 billion, which used to be pocketed by middlemen and fictitious claimants. Aadhaar, a low-cost technology developed in India. GSTN, a low-cost technology developed in India. Ayushman Bharat, crores of people are getting 5 lakh every year healthcare entitlement, again developed in India. India is becoming a center of digital payment in a big way. The topmost player in the world, UPI, a made in India product, low cost, developed in India. That is a great innovation, initiative spirit of Indians in the field of technology. I have got a common service center platform, digital kiosk in various gram panchayats of India. They make your passport, the railway ticket, the land records, and a variety of things. That is something I controlled as an IT minister. I said, please involve yourself in giving pre-litigation advice to poor people, a distraught daughter-in-law in the rural parts of India, by a signed panel of lawyers. Nearly 7 lakh advices have been given. I would urge the student of Bennett University, Mr. Vice Chancellor, will they offer their services to be a part of this process at a defined point in time, so that there is a new exposure of your students also in the field of inclusive legal assistance. With this background, ladies and gentlemen, the new education policy has come. It seeks to expose India to the global education ecosystem and makes India ready for 21st century requirement of higher education. That is what I foresee the essence of the new education policy. Our government view is very clear that in ensuring good higher education, there has to be a very happy blend of the government obligations and the private initiative. That we are very clear about. And your university, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the Bennett University, is a step in the right direction. Yes, foreign players are free to set up their bases in India. Why not? So many students go and study abroad, whether in America or in Europe or England. There is a very compelling case. You come here, give quality education, set up good campuses in coordination with Indian entrepreneurs, and give higher education of standards. We have already proposed to set up a higher education commission. I understand the law is outside the purview of the Higher Education Commission. Law is still in Bar Council of India. But as the law minister and also as a senior lawyer, I would surely urge the Bar Council and all those involved with legal education that there is a compelling case to reflect upon the challenges and opportunity which the emerging contours of higher legal education offers. That is a very compelling case. And I'm very clear that in the global world, there is going to be extraordinary new area of opportunity. Let me recount some of these. The first and foremost is going to be the international arbitration. I'm very clear, Mr. Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, India must emerge as a big hub of international arbitration. Why not? We have changed the law substantially, wherein we have allowed a focused attention to develop institutional arbitration, a proper arbitration council of India designed to vet the credibility, the preparation, the quality of arbitrators, the timeline taken in at judging the suitability of a particular institutional arbitration. And I'm very happy that India, with a country of its size today, has only 35 nearly institutional arbitration. I'll be happy to have 500. Why not? That's how we wish to develop a good case. And India has got all the requisite qualities of teachers, of lawyers, of good judges. And yes, our arbitration law clearly says even a foreigner can become, any nationality can become an arbitrator, no problem. And I'm very clear that India has all the requisite case to become a good global hub. And India's increasing role in economy, world economy, supply chain, international trade, all ultimately command a good arbitration ecosystem here, which we are willing to. We have no problem with London or Singapore, but we also want India to develop. The second challenge which I see in quality legal education is international trade, finance is going to be of great relevance. And I would be very happy if this particular interaction, Mr. Vice Chancellor, focuses upon these new areas of legal education for young boys and girls. In fact, I deeply appreciate the National Law School movement. I have visited many of them, I have addressed them in my professional capacity. Many of the graduates have assisted me in the Supreme Court and different high courts of India. And I have seen their quality. This movement needs to grow further and further. I foresee a greater opportunity of a happy balance of more practical training, not only of 1 month or 2 months, as I always get requests to become, to work in my ministry or in some other assignments. A very effective practical training during course that would help a lot in shaping the quality of legal education. Therefore, arbitration being one, financial, trading, the legal issues arising out of international supply chain. Because in this global world, Mr. Vice Chancellor, international supply chain is going to raise new challenges, new legal issues. Now let me come to the larger issue which I would like to address today, as to what are the legal challenges which the digital economy is going to pose. And are we ready to address those challenges? The first issue is one of data. After all, any digital economy generates data. We are talking today virtually, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Many people are seeing, many people will be commenting. And if I ask my department to collect the data of this interaction today, it will run into thousands and thousands. Therefore, a digital ecosystem, by its very temperament, generates data. And the large number of Indians, 1.35 billion, who are tech savvy. I would like Mr. Vice Chancellor this interaction to know India has the biggest operation of Facebook. India has the biggest operation of WhatsApp. India has the third biggest operation of Twitter. Therefore, all the social media companies also are doing good business in India because Indians enjoy those social media platforms. And yes, I always acknowledge that social media has empowered ordinary Indians. They ask questions, they ask resolutions. But some of our concerns which you have also flagged by the new social media guideline, where we have articulated, the issue is not of use of social media. The issue is of misuse and abuse of social media. And what happens, Mr. Vice Chancellor, if a victim of the abuse and misuse, should he get a proper forum for adjudication of his or her grievances or not? Today I am posing a question before this August audience. What should I do as the Minister of IT and Communication when a distraught mother comes to me that the former boyfriend of her teen daughter is pushing all their intimate scene on the social media? Should I keep quiet? I have also a commitment for the dignity of the woman of India. What should I do when I hear that a young innovator is setting up his company and all the big players start bombarding social media with negative campaign against him? Or an individual is being defamed based on falsehood? Or a terrorist is abusing the platform to disrupt the country? These are the issues we have flagged and which we have addressed. And surely, we welcome criticism from the Prime Minister to me or to the government. But the essence of the social media guideline is that people who are the victims of abuse, misuse, must have a forum for settlement of their grievance within a time frame. The government will remain away from it. And yes, I have also taken a point very clearly and categorically. You'll have to learn to respect Indian laws and the Constitution of India. You have to work in India. And in particular, I have outlined one serious concern of mine, which I mentioned in the Parliament. I would like to repeat here. If Twitter appreciates the police action on the Capitol Hill in Washington, it's good. But how it is that Indian symbol of democracy, the Red Fort, is attacked by aggressors, you side with them? This is plainly unacceptable, Mr. Vice. If American democracy is important, Indian democracy is important too. We believe in our constitution, the rule of law, and those norms will have to be appreciated. Come to the data part of it. We need to use the data for the good of the people, for policy initiatives, for innovation, for utility. I'm very clear that there needs to be a robust legal architecture. And our protection of data protection law is presently under examination by a parliamentary select committee, and very soon we'll concretize it. I'm very clear there has to be a proper balance respecting the right of privacy of the owner of the data, number one. The element of his consent, number two, taken fairly and honestly. And number three, innovation is surely permissible. Why not? But while you do so, and we are open for that, data sovereignty of India and Indians needs to be maintained. Because this is an issue I would like to flag today. As I see the data economy flowing globally, a lot of legal challenges are going to arise. Mr. Vice Chancellor, of monopoly, of exclusivity, of few companies becoming the owner of all the data. And small countries, small people are completely relegated. I would like India to take a lead by having a robust data protection law. As in many cases, India's stand on digital inclusion is being globally recognized. Our social media guideline has been appreciated. I quite see our data protection law of the widest consultation possible would be a very happy amalgam of respecting privacy, respecting element of consent of the individual who is the owner of the data, and most important, also permitting innovation. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, data economy has enough potential to generate jobs, innovation, create opportunity, but also legal challenges. Excuse me. Is the university, Bennett University, willing to understand these challenges and make your students aware, trained as a law student? Because these are new areas of growth and opportunity. The second is artificial intelligence. You cannot stop the march of AI. I could quite foresee artificial intelligence is going to play a very, very stellar role in access to justice as well. Citizens of India asked me in the Supreme Court, apart from their e-court system, they are contemplating having a separate AI application system so that India's digital justice delivery also become robust. And for a kind information, ladies and gentlemen, one particular number I would like to give. During COVID, the court system in India had 82 lakhs digital hearings. 82 lakhs, 8.2 million. Supreme Court heard 59,309 cases. High Courts of India, 27.58 lakh cases. And Subordinate Court, 54.46 lakh cases. Therefore, apart from digital delivery of services, to COVID fight, to e-education, students studying online, there was a sufficiently satisfactory number of e-hearing as well. We are all supportive of application of AI, but AI gives a lot of challenges. And Mr. Vice Chancellor, one challenge always confronts me. I would like to share that before this August gathering. When a driverless car operates with technology, Shankar Prasad, the IT minister, becomes very happy. But when I wear my hat as a law minister, it gives rise to many misgivings. When that car causes an accident and death of a pedestrian, who is responsible? The owner of the car. These are great challenges for which I have no easy answers today, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to hear all of you, what should be the answer? That is a debatable question. Now coming to the AI part, AI is what? It is artificial intelligence. That means computer-generated intelligence. But I am very clear, AI should not completely displace the application of human mind, of ethical values, of conscience. Because as we say, when a judge takes oath, I will act as per law, constitution, and my conscience. AI cannot have a conscience. That will always come from the human mind. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, these are issues of moral, legal, and ethical implications. How do we go about it? I am very clear that let me flag 5 points in case of AI. AI should bring in inclusion and empowerment of ordinary people. AI should be ethical and driven by transparency in algorithms. Next, weaponization of AI by rogue states or actor must be prevented. That's very important. AI must respect the data privacy of users and data sovereignty of nations. And last, any monopolistic hegemony of any state or company in AI will not be acceptable. Another area, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I would like to flag today, which is again a matter of global concern, is the challenge of cybersecurity. If the world is becoming digital, the challenge is of cybersecurity is always there. I've always taken a view, Mr. Vice Chancellor, while speaking in India and also globally, that internet is one of the finest creations of human mind. But it cannot be the monopoly of few. If internet is global, it must have linkage with the local ideas, local culture, local aspirations and expectations. And the second, Mr. Vice Chancellor, and ladies and gentlemen, if internet is to be of use for human mind and human development, it must be safe and secure. That's indeed very important. And therefore the Supreme Court, while upholding the right of privacy as integral to fundamental right under Article 21, has also held that a terrorist or a corrupt have no right to privacy, because they cannot cover their misdeeds under the shield of privacy. That makes common sense. But the challenge, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I face as the IT and Law Minister is one of jurisdiction. Because when we talk of cyber challenges, we are talking of a cyber world. It is beyond the physical world, the digital world. It is a virtual world. Some rogue elements sitting far away are creating havoc with our system and vice versa. Where does the jurisdiction lie? When you talk of a new education policy, of a global policy, and today the digital world is virtually driving us for good, these challenges will have to be appreciated. And a good, constructive solution needs to be found. Because when I was thinking what I should speak, I thought your good conference of the new challenges, the new horizon, it will be very, very appropriate if I flag these concerns so that there can be a good discussion and maybe a resolution which we can also reflect upon very seriously. The last issue will be gig economy. The world is opening up. And when I mentioned initially work from home, today I foresee, Mr. Vice Chancellor, a person sitting in Delhi can serve in 10 companies globally. And vice versa. It is already happening. A quality entrepreneur in the digital world or the financial world, or say in the world of technology, biotechnology, even medicine, can sit in home in Gurgaon or Delhi or Bangalore and keep on working from people. How does it impact upon contractual relationship? Which rule is going to govern it? Because the problem is not today, but problem will arise in future. Let me tell you one instance. Translation is going to become a very big opportunity. If at a click of a button, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I can see what is happening in Latin America, people would like to know the translation of Latin in Hindi or English, or as the case may be. And I'm encouraging that in a very big way. In recent budget also, we have made a funds for that. Again, the question of jurisdiction will come. The gig economy, one young boy entrepreneurs or one young girl sitting in university campus teaching students globally, or one teacher can teach students globally if his worth is there. What shall be the nature of legal relationship as an employer or as a staff or as a contractual employee? I think I have spoken a little more, Mr. Vice Chancellor, but I thought these are some of the challenges and these are also opportunities which we need to reflect upon. And I'm very sure that a very healthy resolution will emerge from India. I see people respect, people appreciate. Mr. Vice Chancellor, in my introduction, a mention was made of my interest in India's electronic manufacturing. When I became minister in 2014, India had only 2 mobile factories. Now we have 160 plus. And we came with production link incentive. You'll be happy to know. I announced that program in April last year, height of COVID. 31st July was given the last date. All the top global companies came and they have committed in writing, we shall make mobile phone and component worth 10 lakh crore in the coming 5 years. Out of which 7 lakh crore will be for export and giving direct and indirect job to about 8 lakh Indian plus. I will be happy to know that I got 14 factories of mobile and component shifted from neighboring countries into India during the COVID times. Because of diplomatic niceties, I did not take the name of that country. Okay. That is the potential of India. That is the opportunity of India. Therefore, this interaction today, new education policy, which opened the global horizon for us, would surely be properly reflected so that the legal education is able to march in consonant with the challenges and also opportunity. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Jane, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for those words and for also outlining the challenges that our students will be facing in the coming years. Our Dean would now like to request you to release the conference booklet, which contains the abstracts of all these.
Yes, I have. Very good. Wonderful, wonderful.
May I now request our Vice Chancellor, Shri Prabhukumar Agarwal ji, to give the vote of thanks for your speech today and your time today.
Am I audible, Ashita?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. On behalf of our founding chancellor, Mr. Vineet Jain, the Board of Trustees of Bennett University, and myself personally, Prabhu Agarwal, I am here to really thank our Honorable Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, Union Minister of Law and Justice, Communications, Electronics and IT, for your inaugural speech, Keynote Address. You know, while listening to you, sir, I could not think of a more authoritative voice. And honestly, you're holding 3 ministries, and everything that's happened, especially COVID times, could there be any other, I'm thinking in my mind, space that was affected and made our lives as normal as possible? The digital roadmap that you had talked about, enabling that, has left us not dead, but has created opportunities, like you have said, which are amazing. And you have to be the most authoritative voice on this. These 3 ministries, from commerce to law to IT, are coming together like never before. And I think your call to action to the legal community and the legal students that are pursuing law, the new directions that you have laid out, that this digital roadmap and digital economy is throwing up, challenges that are coming up from data privacy, from data sovereignty, national sovereignty, the use and misuse, as you say, or I should say abuse and misuse of social media. And you are in a very unique position to look at the 2 sides of the coin. So I think our legal community is challenged. So how do you balance the 2? This idea of the respect for local laws and the local sovereignty of a nation. We are a sovereign nation, and what does that mean? India is a democratic country, and our democratic values are our democratic values. And how do we go about protecting them in a sovereign environment? India is a country of laws. Therefore, our legal community has to understand that. And last but not least, you spoke about the role of AI. And not just from a perspective of a technology as AI. You spoke about how AI as a technology will interact and create legal issues. And you flagged particularly issues of inclusiveness, ethical issues, rogue states operating, data privacy, and monopolistic behaviors. There is a direct connect here with the legal community and the challenges that we as a nation, we as a profession of legal experts are facing today and will continue to face. This is a new 21st century. We are fortunate that we have people like you, Raviji, in the ministry, who have the the foresight, the experience, as well as the, I should say, the decision-making abilities to take us forward. We are deeply indebted to you for your time and your presence during this conference, and I hope to personally meet you very soon and present you with the conference booklet. Jai Hind, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Grateful for the kind words. Thank you once again to all of you. Namaskar.
Namaskar ji.
Thank you so much, sir. But before we bring this ceremony to an end, may I request Dr. Garima Tiwari
to... I think ma'am, sir has... yes.
Is there?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
you so much. No, sir is here, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Professor Ashita. Respected Shri Shankar Prasad ji, Honorable Minister for Law and Justice, Communications, Electronics and Information Technology, Mr. Vineet Jain, Chancellor, Bennett University, Professor Prabhukumar Agarwal, Vice Chancellor, Bennett University, Ms. Revati Jain, Mr. Sudhanshu, and Professor Nuzhat Parveen Khan, Dean School of Law, Bennett University, other respected dignitaries, participants, and students. It is my honor and privilege to propose this vote of thanks to Honorable Minister Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad, sir. On behalf of School of Law, Bennett University, and my own behalf, I thank you, sir, for your keynote address as the chief guest in this inaugural session of the one-day international conference on globalization of professional legal education, constitutional conspectus. At the very outset, I would like to thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and gracing us with your presence and launching our conference booklet. I'm sure we all agree, and as pointed out by Vice Chancellor, sir, that there would have been no better authoritative voice to inaugurate this conference that aims to discuss and deliberate on the new education policy, its global perspectives, legal and technological contours, and its impact on several dimensions of legal education and in general higher education in India. Sir's discussion and contribution on the relevance of digital education and virtual interaction, particularly during COVID, has been of high importance. Further, the discussion on digital identity, payments, inclusive legal assistance, international arbitration, trade, supply chain, the digital redressal mechanisms, and other responses and measures to build the digital India have provided insights into this global audience of the conference on the technological advancements and ambitions of India. Development of robust legal architecture in Indian democracy, data economy, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and gig economy have been of high importance and, as pointed by Sir, pose novel challenges as well as opportunities. So your words have certainly provided us with clarity and practical insight into what holds ahead and will definitely pave way for the discussions throughout the day of this conference and ahead for global educational ecosystem and hub in India of higher standards. With these words, on behalf of School of Law, Bennett University, I again express my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for giving us your valuable time and sharing your inspiring vision with us. We feel motivated and at the same time humbled by your presence, sir. Thank you very much.
Of you and greetings once again, Mr. Vice Chancellor, Dean, and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I take your kind leave now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ashita ma'am, now we can move to the panel discussion, the inaugural panel discussion. Yes.
Yes. So as we move forward with the proceedings of the day, may I just make a small announcement that this conference booklet will be made available to everybody now. I think this has been a very, very exciting morning, and several arguments and several points have already been raised regarding the viability of the global education in such a diverse and a stratified country. But India has also had past attempts to allow foreign universities in India, which has failed, and therefore there are apprehensions regarding the socio-economic implications and the divide between the high-cost foreign educational institutions and the low-cost education offered by Indian institutions. So, thus, affordability and accessibility of education continue to be of serious concern, especially in the light of the constitutional mandates under the directive principles of state policy. This morning's panel will be discussing these important issues. Our first speaker today is Professor Dr. Prabhukumar Agarwal, a Vice Chancellor at Bennett University. Sir has close to 30 years of experience in both academia and industry, and before he joined us at Bennett University, he's held several senior administrative positions, which include Assistant Dean, Mason School of Business, College of William and Mary in the USA, Chief Learning Officer for the JSPL Group of Companies, New Delhi, Founding Vice Chancellor for OP Jindal University, and President NIIT University, India. He's an active speaker, an active teacher, and a consultant in various areas of management, which include operational excellence, supply chain optimization, business analytics, and many more. His research has been published in various leading academic and practitioner journals, such as Management Science, Operation Research, and many more. Dr. Agarwal has a Bachelor of Technology from IIT Kanpur and an MBA and PhD from Foster School of Business, University of Washington, Seattle. Sir, may I now request you to deliver the presidential address for this conference?
Ashita, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you once again. First and foremost, a disclaimer, I am not from the legal profession. On starting point, first and foremost, I'd like to welcome on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Bennett University, our guest of honor, Shri Prabhukumar, the co-chairman and senior advisor at the Bar Council of India, Madam Leena Chandran Wadia, member of the drafting committee of the Draft National Education Policy 2019, and Honorable Miraj Uddin Mir, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Kashmir, to our first plenary session. As has already been laid out by our Honorable Minister for Law and Justice, Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, a very challenging environment stands before us, as many of the speakers before me have already spoken, and nobody could have spoken it better than our Union Minister, about how the digitalization of the economy, how the legal challenges that will arise out of data, and data being the new oil, and lastly, the globalization, which is the theme of today's conference, of professional legal education, and what challenges it'll throw up. Not being that expert from that area, but as institutional builder in the Indian context, I think this is a very timely topic. And I cannot but imagine the type of experts that are here today and represented by over 30 professionals, educators, academicians, debating these very important topics from across the globe and not just India. Specifically, there will be two panel discussions on the themes of one, internationalization and privatization of legal education. And secondly, the legal education in a globalized world. So we have spoken a little bit about legal education in the globalized world. The issues of internationalization and privatization. Now, I want to make one thing pretty clear, that private education in India is the bulk of the education system, by the way. I don't know necessarily if it is true about the number of students graduating in the law profession, but overall, over 75% students graduating today in all graduate schools, undergraduate programs, bachelor's programs are coming from private universities. So I first and foremost want to spotlight that as a private university, we play a very significant role in the education landscape of India. And I shall tell you, and also want to bring it to the notice of all panelists who have joined us from across the globe, that as India's new education policy envisions, education for all, inclusiveness and affordability, the role of private education will continue to grow by leaps and bounds across all education spheres, disciplines, because of the capacity requirements. And we must keep that in mind of what this all means. The issue of internationalization of legal profession, I think, has already started with the questions of or observations made by the Union Minister on international arbitration, the questions of legalities of international trade, the questions that arise out of the digital economy and being an interconnected world. And now we are not talking about physical boundaries, we are talking about virtual boundaries, sovereignty issues, local versus global laws, monopolistic versus respect for local values, the issues of morality, democracy. All of these are getting extremely relevant. So I want us all to throw open this conference to keeping in mind these ideas beyond just what a foreign university coming to India would mean. I think that is only a small piece in the larger context of the legalization or the globalization of legal education. I want this theme to be larger, and keeping in mind the comments of our Union Minister for Law and Justice, with having such eminent people on this panel who are more of legal experts than I am, and given that in the interest of time, I will not take up any more time during my presidential address, but I'd like you to think of the globalization of legal education to not simply being an issue of the entrance of foreign universities in India, because I think that's a very limited scope of discussion. So with that, again, I thank Professor Khan and her team to organize this conference along with the university and the faculty on this very timely topic. And I wish all participants much success in their deliberations, and wish that they all come away from this conference of day-long deliberations with a new appreciation of both the Indian legal education as well as the challenges that India as a nation and the globe, complete globe, faces today. Because whatever we have said about India is probably true about other countries that are facing similar issues. So thank you once again on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor. We welcome you to this day-long discussion on a very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for setting the stage for deliberations through the day and also expanding this notion of globalization of education that we have been speaking about since morning. Our next panelist today is Mr. S. Prabhakaran, who is somebody all of us know and respect. He's a senior advocate and also the co-chairman of Bar Council of India. Sir, your presence today really motivates us. Let me just introduce him briefly, and then I shall request him for his words on the topic. Mr. Prabhakaran is a senior advocate and the co-chairman at Bar Council of India. He has also served as chairman of the Bar Council of India in 2016. He was elected as the member of Bar Council of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry in 2011 with the second highest number of votes. Advocate Prabhakaran was then chosen by the State Council as its representative in Bar Council of India, Delhi. In 2012, the Bar Council of India nominated him as chairman of its disciplinary committee. and in 2013, he was elected co-chairman of the Bar Council of India. He is a 3-time president of Madras High Court Advocates Association, and he is also the president of Tamil Nadu Advocates Association. Sir, we request you to discuss and deliberate this important issue.
Respected Dr. Prabhukumar Agarwal, Vice Chancellor of the Bennett University, Ma'am Nuzhat Parveen Khan, Dean of School of Law, Bennett University, and then respected other members of this panel discussion. I am very happy to join all of you on behalf of the Bar Council of India as we begin the discussion on the most pertinent topics that are poised to acquire even more the importance as the years roll on the legal profession. The need to homogeneously and harmonious legal education with the international curriculums and standards. As far as the legal education is concerned, the importance to maintain these standards at the bar and to contribute to the administration of justice by providing assistance to the bench. Quality of the bar and its lawyers directly playing a part on the quality of judgments. Quality of justice, need for advocates to stay informed about the law and receive quality of legal education in order to assist the bench and deliver justice. In one of the cases, in the Balbir Kaur case, the already Supreme Court has said law is a dynamic in nature and adapts itself to the modifying society. Law being the constructions model of society, it is the basic rule of the society, as well being the way of life, and society the same needs to adapt itself to the society. In today's world, that technology prevails as the mother of all. Technology has got the power to change the society and the act as the backbone of the society. In the world of globalization and technology, law needs to adapt to the same and the legal education which forms as basics for all these needs to adapt to the changes of globalization. In fact, I wanted to bring the notice, particularly the Vice Chancellor, the Indian origins studying in the foreign countries. As far as the legal educations, those who are studying in the foreign countries, abroad, the Bar Council of India, first they have to affiliate the colleges in abroad for foreign countries. Those children, those who studied there are several differences between our education and the foreign educations. In fact, we are having the 5-year courses, and there only they are saying as if that is equivalent to 5-year courses, they studied only 3-year law course. In fact, if they are coming to, they wanted to be practiced here because of the Indian origin. When they are coming here, the Bar Council of India, as per the Act, we are insisting them to write the exams. 2 exams they have to write. One is bar exams, that is after the enrollment. Prior to that, the Bar Council of India conducting the 2 courses, that is 2 years, because they are completed only 3 years course. 3 years only they are studying the 5 years course. Therefore, that the Bar Council of India is not accepting that. So we are insisting to go for any national law schools 2-year courses we are insisting to study. So there is a lot of variation in this regard. As Said by the many scholars, the legal education is a versatile form of knowledge which attributes to the constructions of society. The legal education in India is offered at different levels by traditional universities. We are having 10 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 and then 10 plus 2 plus 5. In these aspects, suppose it is 10 plus 2 plus 5. If those who are studied after the enrollment in the bar councils, they are coming to practice as members of the bar, then what is the problem with the universities which are adopted the same courses in the foreign countries is the more problem. When we had a discussion, suppose Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad ji also very clearly has said, when the power which is, because legal education is concerned, within the entry of 77, 78 and the list 1 of the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. This is because the entry which have a power, the Bar Council of India is to affiliate it, then only they can practice, otherwise it's a more problem. Or otherwise, the government has to say, this is a reciprocity, when the reciprocal, that power which has been given on both the countries, then it's a different issue. But now the globalizations, the great virtue of the law is adaptability and the flexibility in such a situations needs to model universities based on the methods utilized by Cambridge, Oxford and Harvard. One is to be on infrastructure, quality of faculty, student resource and libraries, and a shift from the traditional classrooms lectures to a system of advanced reading, a list and a discussion on based approach, and marks awarded not only on written examinations but on classrooms participation and original paper presentations. Needs for examination to be remodeled to open book with the case based and the illustrations based on examinations method to test the conceptual understanding of the students. Need to introduce the mandatory internship, the period before the enrollment of students or before the award of the law degree. Mandatory internship period at least 6 months to 1 year. Earlier when it was there, in Sudhir case, that has been said, because in the Advocates Act that has not been permitted, therefore you need not go for internship. But we are conducting exams. The Bar Council of India conducting exam, the matter is sub judice before the Supreme Court of India. But whereas those students abroad, they are coming to India, absolutely they have to take some training. So in these situations, they need to introduce a mandatory internship period for at least before the enrollment of the students, 6 months to 1 year, and those who are having 15 years of practice, senior advocates, in order to gain hands-on experience and knowledge. Need for instilling the cultural values, ethics and morals in the students. Real challenge need to drive home the point of the legal profession being a noble, honorable and elevated professions to the students. Necessity of an hour, knowledge must lead to refinement in character, the elevation in thoughts and high moral conduct. An advocate must be a role model in the society. The Cambridge, Oxford and Harvard universities, the higher legal education of the program, LLM only about 1 year, owing to outstanding the faculty, the superior infrastructure. The 2 weeks earlier, the Bar Council of India has conducted the program. We called all the vice chancellors in all universities, and we have said, in fact, the vice chancellors of the other universities, private universities, and the National Law University, everybody wants us to only 1 year system. But the Bar Council of India said, no, we can't accept, because we have given what is the regulation, what are the rules which has been passed in the earlier. So therefore, we are not being permitted, we said. But though, in fact, the matter also pending with the Supreme Court. What the Supreme Court has said, you call all the vice chancellors and had a discussion either it is a 1 year or a 2 year, then that you have to take a look into this issue. But all the vice chancellors of all the universities, they are insisting that probably you might have aware of it. But why I'm saying that, if 1 year, you can have 1 year, no problem. But if you want to have taking the class as a faculty member of any university, then it is required for 2 years. That's what we are insisting. So therefore, the class libraries are of 500 years of vintage and a highly qualified students community. They need to replicate the same in India in LLM program, which are currently for 2 years. So upon the India achieving the same standard in terms of infrastructure, faculty, resource and students community, and lengthier LLM programs for 2 years leads to a more rigorous study of the law, the greater academic exposure, and more in-depth study of legal concepts. The concepts and methods of teaching and the pedagogy to be followed may be similar to Cambridge and Oxford, small group of tutorials of not more than 5 to 7 students. But that is for the advanced countries. But in India, it's entirely different. So advanced readings to be done by students before arriving the class and classrooms, and more for discussions and not for fresh teachings. The choice for the students choose 4 or 5 subjects for a pool to the 40 subjects opportunity, expose the variety of subjects while doing a master's program for greater variety of knowledge. So in this situation, the School of Law and the Bennett University, really you had a very excellent program today. This conference regarding the globalization of professional legal education, constitutional concepts. So with the great respects, what I have been trying to say, this has to continue. This type of models we have to discuss, and time to time, then only the members of the bar and particularly the faculty members will have a broad knowledge about the legal profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for highlighting this difference in legal education across countries and the challenges that Bar Council of India faces in ensuring high quality legal learning both at graduate and postgraduate levels. Our next speaker for the day is Dr. Leena Chandran Wadia, who is the member of Drafting Committee of the Draft National Education Policy 2019 and a Senior Fellow Observer Research Foundation. Dr. Leena received her PhD in physics from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and did her postdoctoral work in high performance computing at ETH Zurich. She has been a researcher at several places in India and abroad, including IIT Bombay and CERN in Switzerland. She's also served in the corporate sector as Senior Vice President and CTO at Netcore Solutions Private Limited, working in the area of value-added services on mobile phones. Since moving to ORF Mumbai in 2010, Leena has been engaged in research and policy advocacy, primarily in education, but also in other areas such as renewable energy, public health, and sustainable agriculture. She has contributed to the preparation of India's Draft National Education Policy 2019 as a member of the Technical Secretariat to Dr. Kasturi Rangan Committee and as a member of the Drafting Committee of the policy. It is indeed our pleasure, ma'am, that you could join us today here, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts on this important subject.
Request you, ma'am, to unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Thank you all so much for this opportunity to be among so many legal luminaries and legal educators. As someone who had the opportunity to work on the NEP, we have had the privilege of interacting with many professors from the national law universities. But this setting is really special, especially when the Union Minister addressed us. I just want to, since this is a conversation about the NEP, I thought I will touch upon a few things that the NEP says that has bearing on today's discussion. But before that, I just want to say that I was so touched to see in the brochure of the conference this statement that Bennett University does not only want to create professionals, but it wants to shape a compassionate individual under the professional robe. This is so important because this is exactly in line. Look at the vision statement of the NEP, what it says is that we would like to create, it aims at producing engaged, productive, and contributing citizens for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged by our Constitution. And today's audience are among the guardians, foremost guardians of our Constitution. The NEP also has particular emphasis on the development of the creative potential of every individual. It's based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacities, literacy and numeracy and so on, but also higher order cognitive capacities such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also social, ethical, and emotional capacities of students. What this means is that if you put the students center stage, then the faculty members, the teachers, the law educators also have to be center stage in the education system. And I'll come back to this point in a minute. So, I think I found it very exciting that in Bennett University, you already have a School of Engineering and Applied Sciences and School of Management and School of Media, which means that you can offer so many interdisciplinary courses, some of which are necessitated by what the Union Minister said about cybersecurity laws, more induction of technology and so on. But also on the other end, to look at affordability and accessibility to law education and to a good life to a lot of Indians. And that will also mean that getting into subjects like developmental economics, sociology, and so on. You are a very young university, so I suspect that you will introduce all these subjects quite soon. About the NEP, what I wanted to say, and this Dr. Kasturi Rangan says very, very often, is that, the policy is completely transformational in nature. What it's trying to do is to turn the educational system on its head, kind of, completely change the way we are doing things at the moment. So that is, and the policy has been very clear about articulating the goal of the future education system. What should the future education system look like? It should have autonomous institutions, autonomous faculty, and a lot of vibrancy in the teacher-student interaction and the student-society interaction, student-community interaction. But the policy does not specify the paths to getting there, because the policy felt that it is up to the educational leaders to actually decide the paths for their own institutions. So what this means is that we will need a lot of thoughtful leadership among the higher education institutions, and everybody will need to imbibe the spirit of the policy. The spirit of the policy is to put India at, grab the coming decade as India's decade and India's century, and put Indians, maybe among the top 3 economies in the world, but also eradicate poverty and so on. So we need a change of mindset. So a lot of it is expected from faculty members and managements. But fortunately, the NEP provides a compass, and the compass is what is the best for students. How can you help them acquire 21st century skills? How can we help them learn how to learn and become lifelong learners so that they can contribute to society their whole life? And today, this forum, there is another compass, of course, that citizens need a rule of law and speedy access to justice. So that's something to think about too. And about the globalization aspect of the NEP, I'd just like to comment that the NEP, when we were discussing what to do about foreign universities, it was clear that does not make any sense to shut them out. But what we think will happen much more easily in India is for private universities, as well as public, actually, law universities and other subject universities to collaborate with foreign universities. Instead of foreign universities establishing campuses in India, what we think will happen is much more of twinning arrangements, partnerships to provide dual degrees from 2 universities, one in India and one abroad, faculty and student exchange, a lot of collaborative research and so on. Because you see, it's only in the Middle East, for example, that or in China, that a lot of universities from developed countries have gone, but that is because they got land and funding support to establish their universities. Universities are expensive. We are not promising that in India. So the shape of globalization of education will be different in our country. I think it's more about collaborations and partnerships, and many universities are already engaged in collaborations and partnerships. The next important thing is internationalization, and the policy has given a lot of focus on internationalization, because we have a few 100,000 students going out and only a few tens of thousands of students coming in. And what is so interesting is that private universities can be at the forefront of internationalization. Manipal University in Karnataka is a very good example. Karnataka is among the foremost states which draws foreign students, and more than half of those students are in Manipal, just one university. So, internationalization also brings a lot of benefits, exposure to different countries and their culture. The Minister talked about, translations from Latin to our languages and vice versa. There's a lot of interaction that helps in internationalization and globalization, and that we do need to increase our international enrollment by an order of magnitude. And of course, for us in the NEP drafting committee, it was a very big surprise to realize that one of the big bottlenecks for justice is the fact that languages in lower courts are in the vernacular, and in the high court and Supreme Court, they are in English. And so translations holds up justice a lot of the time. And their technology can play a role. Today, we have machine translation possibilities, natural language processing, and I hope that Bennett University will look into all of these things to help contribute towards justice. Vocational education for paralegals, for law clerks, for forensics, for cybersecurity laws, lots of activity at the cusp of law, technology, public policy. These are all also very important, and the policy has given very, very strong emphasis on that. There was already a lot of talk about apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are a crucial part of learning, and so all law education must include apprenticeship. And of course, in answer to what Mr. Prabhakaran said, the NEP has actually allowed a lot of flexible 3-year or 4-year undergraduate program followed by a 1-year or 2-year master's degree program. I think that it is important to keep that flexibility in order to do justice to the disciplines that are being taught. And of course, we have expanded the definition of disadvantage, and we have come up with a word called the socially and economically disadvantaged group, which includes even people like orphans and migrant children, and there's a lot of attention on equity and inclusion. I want to end by talking about two things that are different between the draft National Education Policy and the NEP 2020. The draft NEP came out in 2019. It's the long document, and that these two have a bearing on law education. And one, the minister already referred to the fact that law education and medical education have been kept out of the regulatory framework of higher education. This, to our mind, is something that needs review going forward, because what was the policy trying to do? The policy was trying to make sure that one group of professionals, which are practicing lawyers who comprise the Bar Council of India, do not impose on the autonomy of another group of professionals who are the law educators, the teachers and the faculty members and the leadership of higher education institutions. So we felt very strongly that it is okay for Bar Council of India to regulate the practice of law and look after the ethics of practice. But when it comes to education, we felt that it was important that the Bar Council of India became a professional standard-setting body, specified what it wanted out of law education, but leave it to the law schools of law and the leadership of educational institutions and professors in law universities to actually decide what to teach and how to teach. This will make for a much more agile and responsive law education. And therefore, I think that this is the first time I've had the opportunity to talk about this, that we think it's unhealthy that law and higher education and medical education regulation has been left with the Bar Council of India and the Medical Council and all their allied councils. I think I'm out of time, so I will not talk about the other difference, which is really the suggestion that we had made to create a National Education Commission, because it brings experts into it. It calls for lots of education experts to oversee the implementation of the NEP and to help with coordination between different ministries involved in education and so on. This is a challenge that is yet to be addressed, but hopefully it will be addressed in when the implementation comes out, which we are still waiting for. I'll stop here. I would wish you all a very successful conference. I've seen the program. I'd love to attend some of the talks, and I'm going to do that. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let me just say, for giving us the background and the thought process behind how the educational policy has envisaged the future education and need for multidisciplinarity. In fact, I'm reminded of a saying by Malcolm X that education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And I think you've shown us how the new education policy is in fact looking at this aspect of the future. So thank you so much, ma'am. Our next speaker on the panel today is respected Professor Dr. Mirajuddin Mir, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Kashmir. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Sir, as we all know, has a rich teaching experience of more than 35 years and is a prolific writer and has published more than 45 research papers in both national and international journals, several reference books, and 4 volumes on higher education problems and prospects. He's participated in more than 150 seminars and conferences at national and international conferences and seminars, and has completed various research projects funded by the Government of India and also international projects. He has been a member of the drafting committee of the Model Jail Manual 2000 for the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and has held several key positions in the University of Kashmir, which among others include Dean Student Welfare, Controller of Examinations, Director UGCAC, and Registrar of the University. He has been conferred with some fellowships and awards, including Max Planck Fellowship, Indian Network of Researchers, UNESCO, Lusau Consultant Malaysia, and ISC Fellowship India. He is a member of the Board of Research Studies and PhD examiners in various universities and has visited several countries, including Germany, Spain, Hong Kong, to name a few. He presently holds the position of Vice Chancellor at Central University of Kashmir. With these few words, sir, may I request you to add to the deliberations of the morning.
Thank you very much, madam. Good morning to all of you, both I think who are offline as well as online.
Shukriya, sir.
At the very outset, I must extend congrats to the School of Legal Studies of this newly established university, Bennett University, for choosing a very, very important topic for today's discussion. I am also thankful to the Honorable Chancellor of the University, Mr. Jain, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Prabhukumar Agarwal Sahab, and of course, Madam Nuzhat Parveen Khan. I think she has played the key role in inviting me to this important webinar. I think the Honorable
Sir, Minister, to invite all.
Am I audible? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
And also to Madam Garima, who has been Madam Tiwari, who has been in touch with me all these days and keeping me on tender hooks that to join in time and to be available in time. Nevertheless, as I said, this is a very important topic you have chosen, and I extend congrats once again. Well, I think as the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Agarwal has rightly said, today we had a very, very authoritative keynote address by the Honorable Minister, who spoke on various important aspects, various important issues pertaining to this very important topic, globalization of professional education. Well, we have also heard the co-chairman of the Bar Council of India, Mr. Prabhukumar, and then also the honorable member of the drafting committee, Dr. Wadia. They spoke on this issue in addition to Professor Agarwal. Well, it is a matter of fact, the globalization of legal profession has already taken place. You can't deny this fact. As the Honorable Minister has rightly pointed out, today we are in the virtual world. When we are in the virtual world, there are no borders, there are no limitations. You can reach anywhere, anytime you like. So far as my knowledge is concerned, even some of my students have established law firms and they are operating overseas so far as various litigation issues are concerned. Professionalization, this globalization of professional legal education has already taken place. Now the issue arises, I think the issues to which we in the universities, especially from the legal fraternity, we have to address is that what are the challenges ahead? It is a matter of fact, as rightly pointed out by the Honorable Minister, there as well as by the Honorable Vice Chairman of the Bar Council of India, there is a variation maybe in terms of the legal systems. We have different legal systems in the world. We have different operational laws in vogue in different countries. There may or may not be a parity. And there are also different methodologies. Say, for instance, we have this, what we call, in case of some European countries, you have inquisitive system of justice. We have this where we say guilty, not guilty system in vogue. These are different systems which are prevailing in the world. Similarly, the training to our legal fraternity, to upcoming lawyers, advocates, also varies from country to country and even in the same country from university to university. And more or less, as it has been rightly pointed out, the more challenges in terms of the security and sovereignty of the country, the challenge in terms of the privacy of the litigants, and then again the bombardment which has been posed by the corporate sector, who by and large are guided and may by the main consideration, that is economic consideration, because they are profit oriented rather than client or customer oriented. Well, this creates many issues for which I think we in the law departments, we have to address to these issues. As Madam Dr. Wadia has rightly pointed out, our national education policy on one hand no doubt addresses to what we call inclusiveness. It also addresses the diversity. It has also addressed to what we call flexibility, towards which our this vice chairman Prabhukumar rightly pointed out, 10+2, 10+ something like that. And even he also mentioned about LLM 1 year, LLM 2 year, about which we had a discussion in the Bar Council of India very recently. There was a divergent opinion. That is a different issue which I think is not going to be discussed at the moment. Well, professional globalization of professional legal education has taken place. Now we are at the stage wherein we have to see how best we can monitor it, how best we can apply a control mechanism wherein we can take care of our sovereignty, wherein we can take care of our security of the nation, and wherein we can guard the privacy of our citizens or of the people at large. These are some of the important issues on which we have to deliberate upon. And more or less, as the Honorable Minister rightly pointed out, the role of artificial intelligence, to what extent it can change the dimensions and the magnitude of legal profession, and to what extent we can accommodate the artificial intelligence so far as legal profession is concerned. These are the issues which I believe we will have to ponder upon and discuss upon. As I said, internationalization or globalization of education, including legal education, has already taken place. You have a good chunk of the students who are studying in various universities of the world, including various law schools of the world, and maybe the number of students who are coming to India, I mean the inflow, that may be very, very smaller as compared to the outflow of our students. And they are coming with their degrees. Obviously, the Bar Council of India comes in when we talk of equivalence or when we talk of other issues. But the foreign universities have penetrated in Indian educational system. And I must say, with due consideration, they have penetrated very deep so far as Indian educational system is concerned. Maybe for the time being, you have not with wholeheartedly accepted them in a very... If you remember, a bill was introduced long back when Shri Kapil Sibal was the Honorable Education Minister, wherein the scope for allowing the foreign universities to establish their establishments in India was moved. No doubt, till date, it has not seen the light of the day. But on ground, so far as this digital world is concerned, through this medium of digitalization, foreign education system, foreign universities have, as I said, I would like to emphasize, penetrated very deep in our legal system, in our educational system. Well, it is a matter of debate whether the legal education and medical education, as Madam Dr. Vaidya rightly pointed out, should fall or should not fall within the purview of the National Education Policy 2020. It is a matter of concern, consideration, and review, as well as the Madam rightly pointed out. But the matter remains there that Bar Council of India, as on date, continues to control the quality of legal education in India. The time will decide, the time will say to what extent they shall be in a position to have such a control so far as the number of the students who are coming with the degrees, law degrees in their hands from foreign countries, or even who are getting their degrees while being in India through digital medium from the countries which are foreign based. These are some legal issues which will emerge and to which we will have to address. But it is a matter of fact, the corporations, multinational, national, they are engaging the lawyers in the virtual mode. As Honorable Minister has given the data, how many cases have been disposed of through the digital medium, no doubt within India, but the same can take place so far as international arena is concerned. Now the time has, we have to rise to the occasion as the time has come wherein we have to educate, we have to prepare our law graduates to compete not only at the domestic level, I mean within the jurisdictions of India, but we have to train them. We have to come forward to educate them, to train them to deal with the situation at the global level. It is also a matter of fact, as a number of scholars in their papers have pointed out, that in this very digital pattern of professional legal education, the lawyers who are not in a position to maintain the pace with what is going on at present, perhaps may not be in a position to survive in the legal profession. Perhaps may not be in a position to earn their livelihood in case they are not in a position to maintain the pace with the changing world, with the changing digital pattern of dispensation, which has now become a part and parcel of our life. The Honorable Minister has raised many vital issues. I do agree with the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Prabhukumar Agarwal, that with his authoritative discourse, many dimensions have been opened so far as the dynamics of professional legal education at the global level is concerned. Well, we can't have a Nelson's eye. We can't close our eyes so far as ground reality is concerned. If we confine ourselves within the old pattern of legal education system, I as a teacher, rather I as a senior teacher, have a feeling that we are doing it at the cost of our students. It is also a matter of fact, so far as poor India is concerned, so far as real India is concerned, to what extent our students can afford, so far as their affordability is concerned, to what extent they can avail this modern digital education, again, is a matter of fact, which obviously the time will decide. But we will have to admit that majority of our students are in poor India. You can't have an eye on Delhi, Bengaluru, Bombay, or other metropolitan cities. You will have to keep in your mind as a legal service, legal education providers on the India, where you have critical mass of the students who belong to the weaker sections of the society, who belong to the downtrodden members of the society, who are from the poorer sections of the society. You can't ignore such a critical mass of the students. But nevertheless, if we want to survive, if we want to keep the flag of Indian legal education system very high at the international arena, we will have rise to the occasion and cope up with the pace which the global legal education has taken the shape. With this, I thank you all, and I wish all the best to this webinar cum seminar on this very important topic of globalization of professional legal education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the myriad challenges that globalization of education is going to throw upon us. Thank you, and it was a pleasure to listen to you. Our next speaker today is Professor Dr. Sridhar Acharyalu, who was the former Dean at Bennett University, and also he's currently the Professor at Bennett University School of Law. He was earlier the Registrar at Nalsar University of Law before he took over as Central Information Commissioner in 2013. He retired from the service of the government in 2018. And after he joined as professor at Bennett University, he was awarded the State Best Teacher Facilitation from AP government. He's a prolific writer with more than 45 books and 100+ research articles, and continuing as a columnist in various newspapers in English and Telugu. Sir, we request you to give your inputs on this important subject.
Thank you very much, Ashita. Honorable Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Prabhukumar Agarwal, my friend Dean Nuzhat ji, and then my CBO, Registrar, and other friends, my colleagues, and the Honorable guests, Mirajuddin Mir Sahab, then Mr. S. Prabhakaran, and Dr. Leena Chandran Wadia. It's a great pleasure to be associated with this kind of wonderful gathering on the point of national education policy. I'm happy that my idea of discussing this new policy in the context of legal education and of course the globalization, the issue of globalization is taking a shape, and we are all discussing this today. In fact, what has come out through the discussions of all the great luminaries today who spoke on this subject is that constitutional conspectus is the point to be understood when we discuss national education policy in the context of globalization. We law school at the law school of Bennett University, we are discussing this because of the unique position of legal education in this country and any other country for that matter. The Constitution, which is the referral point of our discussions today, is what governs us overall. If you are thinking of the common higher education regulatory as National Higher Education Commission, the common regulator is the Constitution. So under the umbrella cover of constitutional regulation, constitutional governance and rule of law, we are supposed to discuss the possibility, the legal practicality of regulating higher education, especially legal education, in the context of our challenge called globalization. Now, it's a very, very common statement and very common sense statement, that is, think globally but act locally, because we have our own diversities, we have our own sociological stratifications, we have our own languages, different kinds of languages within a country. India itself reflects a globe with all its diversity of languages, society, and economic classes that we have. It reflects a globe in all. And then at the same time, we have certain commonness with the entire universe that cannot be forgotten. The commonness with the universe is we are human beings. That is the most common factor. The first basic common factor is of universality is humanity. And the next, our disputes are common. Our issues are common. Poverty is common. And most of the important things that we should understand is knowledge is common. Knowledge is common resource of all the countries, all the human beings, and we cannot forget this factor. And knowledge is for all. You cannot limit the access to knowledge to some based on whether my Article 14 says it or not. That is a common universal philosophy that knowledge is common. Then in this situation, how is that we cope up with the kind of policies that we are coming up with? This is the challenge before us, and I'm happy that these challenging aspects are being discussed today. Now, first challenge I think is the constitutional link and affordability and availability. The speakers have talked about this, affordability and availability. Even the minister, our chief guest, Honorable Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, was also talking about the issues. And I'm very happy that our Vice Chancellor talked about democratic values of the education without ignoring the importance of private education, private field of education. We have to understand the democratic values. When we discuss these two aspects, democratic values and constitutional conspectus, we have to address the issues of accessibility, affordability. And these two make us more to stand on the ground, the practical ground. How is that we are addressing the issue? And one more important factor I think we should not ignore is the possibility of achieving commonness of the standards of education. So we have different stratas of educational imparting activity. But are we focusing on commonness of the standards? This is a very, very important thing. In primary education, we have already traveled a lot without achieving this, and we are still struggling between literacy and illiteracy, poverty and weaker sections, as Miruddin Sahab has rightly pointed out. Yes, how do you address the issue of bringing up those weaker sections to the level of understanding the knowledge that we are going to impart in the context of globalization? This is the most important point. So government, in spite of you encouraging the privatization and also inviting the foreign universities, you cannot abdicate the responsibility or role of state, or you cannot ignore the role of the state in maintaining the public institutions where you address the weaker sections and other people. See, there is nowhere it is said that a person coming from economically lower status is not capable of understanding what you are going to talk about. They are, and it is proved in most of the national law schools where you have a quota for SCs and STs. You know, they have really proven their efficiency and efficacy. So my point here on regulation of legal education is the one point which the member of the National Education Policy Drafting Committee who spoke here, she has really brought out some important issues. I'm very happy because she is involved in these discussions. And I was really having one apprehension. What happens if a foreign university comes over to this country and establishes a different campus where I cannot reach? But she has rightly resolved the issue by saying that they have to collaborate with the universities in the country. That's a fantastic statement. I really welcome it. And it's a welcome feature of the new education policy. And coming to legal education, see, the legal education is not just a training about the law of the people to the country. It is about protecting the constitutional value. And tomorrow, the lawyers that are being made in Bennett Law School or any other law school, they are going to occupy the positions in bar and bench, and they are going to be the guardians of the Constitution. So why I am talking about the Constitution here? Because we are preparing future guardians of the Constitution. When future guardians of Constitution have to be prepared in this country, we must understand the local issues. We must understand the issues of inclusiveness. It is not enough if we simply say that in objective statement. When entire goals that we have we have drafted for national education policy up to 2050, if we want to realize them, we have to start allocating the required number of funds, and we have to start giving due attention and focus to these issues. And who will guarantee this? This is the issue, real issue. And if you want to protect the sovereignty, as rightly stated by our Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, is a really eminent person in the bar, and he is the right person holding the right portfolio, and he spoke right things. And he said it. What is it? He said it. When you are talking about the globalization, you have to understand the growth of monopolistic tendencies. That's where I appreciate him for pointing out that real challenge issue. How do we control this monopoly? And how do you make it competitive? How do you make it universal? How do you make it equal to all? This is a real challenge I think we are going to discuss. And I also have some points, and I'll be discussing them in my technical session. But for this inaugural session, in this 5-minute talk, I would like to say, without addressing the local issues, without addressing the bringing up on the equal strata of certain people, it is difficult for us to achieve the goals, which are very lofty goals. And I wish those goals will be realized in taking everybody along with us. That is what I thought I should tell here. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the public good nature of education and also the real constitutional conspectus that globalization of education brings with it. Our next speaker on the panel today is Mr. Sudhanshu Verma, who is the CEO at Bennett University. Mr. Verma is an experienced and successful leader who has experience of more than 31 years across various industries and sectors. He's led several divisions and businesses in blue chip companies like Hindustan Unilever, Religare, Technova, Manipal Global Education, etc. Over the years, he's also held several administrative senior positions and has been pivotal in managing large teams and bringing about innovative and robust growth and scalability across companies that he has worked with. He has also been an advisor to numerous companies in the sectors of IT and education. Sir, we would like to hear your thoughts on this important subject.
Thank you, Ashita, and thanks to Prabhu, Revati ma'am, and all of you to have called someone like me, because I believe I am the only non-educated guy in this group. You know, in between all these luminaries and dignitaries and all the sharpest of minds in their line of work, all that I would like to say here is all the best. It's an excellent topic to discuss. I can only look at it on if I have to say one or two sentences, the only things which come to my mind is that, you see, in India, higher education is a socialist move, because we believe that education is for all, and the government therefore has made higher education as a not-for-profit part of the system. But when we talk of globalizing it and bringing universities from outside, the universities outside are for profit. They are not for profit. And therefore, how many of them will come is still a question mark. I would, tend to look at it differently and say that our higher education system actually is very, very robust, very rigorous. Why don't we look at taking Indian education abroad and globalizing it to a level where this education system, especially at the undergrad level, is the one which is really pursued and looked up to by all the others. That's my only 2 bit into it. So I wish everyone all the very best. We've already had very interesting inputs coming in from all the speakers till now. So I'm very keenly looking forward to what else comes our way. So thank you very much for inviting me and letting me be a part of this. All the very best to you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think Professor MP Singh is here with us, and sir. Professor MP Singh?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I think, sir, we can have your discussion in this panel itself. So I'll just briefly introduce you. Yes, sir. So we have with us Professor MP Singh, and he is most popularly known as MP Singh, and he's one of the most renowned constitutional law scholars of India. He is a research professor of law, director, Center for Comparative Law, and chairman of the Law School Doctoral Committee at Jindal Global Law School, India. Professor Singh started his career as a lecturer at the University of Meerut and has since then been associated as a visiting professor with several institutes of national and international repute, including the University of Delhi, NLU Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University, University of Heidelberg, University of Hong Kong, and National University of Singapore. He has also served as the Vice Chancellor of the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, India. He is perhaps best known for his scholarly works in the field of constitutional law and administrative law. Some of his well-known publications include V.N. Shukla's Constitution of India, Comparative Constitutional Law, and German Administrative Law in Common Law Perspective. We welcome you, sir, and we look forward to your discussion, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to invite me in this panel. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for me. Today, actually, I am a guest of Jindal University here, so I specifically came for this purpose. Some other purpose, but I thought that I will speak on that also. Actually, I had just prepared a note, and I thought that would be relevant. In the light of what I heard from the Honorable Minister, from the Vice Chancellor, and several other speakers so far, that lots of people are having lots of interest so far as legal education is concerned. And that interest, I'm glad to know that is increasing, and people are contesting issues which for some reason on which they are having different opinion. It is in this slide that I will just read out this short note which I have prepared. And the note reads like this, that so far as legal education in India is concerned, unlike the civil law system, which from the inception of university education introduced the study of law along with medicine and theology, in common law of England, the study of law was not counted as a core university discipline. Instead, law was left to be developed on case-to-case basis as presented by the legal practitioners and applied by the decision makers in individual cases to be invoked as precedent in similar future cases. Consequently, law as practiced and applied in life became different from the law taught at the universities, such as the initial teaching of Roman law at Oxford University. Due to this dichotomy between the law taught at the universities and the law applied in real life, the study of law in England got divided into law learnt at the Inns of Courts and the law learnt at the universities, giving birth to barristers at law component to present and argue cases in the courts, and the solicitors, after some years training at the solicitors' firms who studied law in the universities. The same system, which with minor variations, was later introduced in British colonies too, and India, having been a colony, also became part of it. In view of its long tradition of religious texts supported by customary practices during its initial stages, as well as during the Islamic rule, India continued to be governed by the Hindu and Muslim laws in respect of the respective communities, except in criminal matters to which ruler's law was applied in the highest provincial courts known as Sadar Diwani and Sadar Nizamat Adalats at the time of Britishers' entry into the Indian legal system. After the replacement of those courts by the high courts in 1861 onwards, the regulation of legal profession was left to the high courts as every high court was free to organize the legal profession. Multiple categories of legal practitioners existed under different high courts. Though the universities of Calcutta and Bombay had been established in 1857, I'm not sure when was legal education introduced in either of them. But by the time the Law Commission took its cognizance in the late 1950s, it was being taught in numerous universities and colleges affiliated to them. Following the recommendations of the Commission for improving the quality of legal profession through legal education and otherwise, Parliament enacted the Advocates Act 1961. The Act basically organizes legal profession, but as legal profession requires appropriate legal education, its section 7H and I also require it to promote legal education and to lay down standards of such education in consultation with the universities in India imparting such education and the state bar councils, and to recognize universities whose degree in law shall be a qualification for enrollment as an advocate, and for that purpose to visit and impact the universities. It is in this background that the then Vice Chancellor C.D. Deshmukh of Delhi University appointed a 3-member committee under the chairmanship of the then Chief Justice of India, Gajendra Gadkar, to recommend measures for the improvement of legal education in Delhi University, which could also be model for the other universities. The committee recommended 3-year legal education after graduation on the lines of legal education in the United States. While the University of Delhi introduced the recommended system from academic year 1966, other universities were given time to introduce the new system, latest by 1968. By the end of the decade, all universities and the law colleges affiliated to them changed over to the new system. Delhi University, on the lines of Harvard Dean Langdale, introduced somewhat rudimentary system of case method by supplying to the students cyclo-styled and edited cases in each course. Dean Tripathi, who was invited from Allahabad University to implement the recommended scheme of legal education, besides noting several improvements suggested and implemented in the US law schools since Langdale reforms, specifically noted 2 structural difficulties with our university system vis-a-vis legal education. One, so long as there was a general decline in university funding, the law schools, as long as they remained wedded to the universities, could not hope to remain unaffected by these developments. 2, the structure of the bar in India also repels rather than attract bright young persons to the practice of law because, however bright they are, they have no financial security and also of career unless they came from well-off families or families of successful lawyers. Professor N.R. Madhava Menon, who was an appointee of Professor Tripathi to implement the Justice Gajendra Gadkar committee recommendations at Delhi University and was party to all the developments and difficulties in association with the Bar Council of India, took the courage of removing both the above 2 shortcomings of the then existing legal education by getting law passed by the state of Karnataka in 1986, which separated legal education from the regular universities and created an exclusive law university with initial meager funds contributed by BCI. With his extraordinary vision and hard work, Professor Menon made the law university attraction for the most promising young students from all over the country, encouraging all state bar councils to follow the suit and have a law university on the Bangalore model. Not all of them have earned the same reputation yet, as these universities are not financed either by the UGC or by the state bar councils. They have to finance themselves from high fee collected from the students, which only the students from very well-off families alone can afford, leading to further inequality of opportunity in the society, which is a serious issue, which, as Vice Chancellor at NUJS Kolkata, I discussed with late Professor Shamnath Bashir, who immediately took it up by establishing and running IDIA, Increasing Diversity by Increasing Access, a charitable trust to help the disadvantaged bright students to enter the study at the NLUs. It is said that Professor Bashir left too early to supervise the growth of IDIA, which was progressing fast. Let us hope his spirit continues to support its growth, not only in minimizing inequality, but also to promote legal culture and rule of law in the society. Currently, for the last few years, BCI, under the pretext of de-recognizing the law degrees awarded by different universities or law schools affiliated to them, has started claiming exclusive power over legal education by denying to UGC and Education Commission or committees appointed from time to time to consider or make any suggestions for the organization and reform of education in general, including legal education. Even today, the Vice of the Bar Council, he actually said the same thing. It is doubtful whether without any change in the Advocates Act or under any other law concerning legal education, the BCI has the power, expertise, and other resources which the organization and development of legal education requires. Acknowledging its limitations, the Bar Council of India, besides ensuring infrastructural facilities and testing the competence of law graduates from legal practice, must leave planning of the progressively best legal education to legal educationists who know better where and what type of law graduates are required to ensure rule of law and legal culture in the society. With these words, I close what I had written down. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate as well as to read out this paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. The pleasure was all ours. The learnings and the insights that you've shared, the process of how legal education has changed in the country has also helped us in understanding how this globalization is going to impact us further. May I now request our last speaker for this inaugural session, Mr. Guljeet Singh Chadda, who is presently the Registrar of Bennett University, to give his thoughts for the conference. Sir, you're muted.
Thank you, Ashita. Am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
You are audible, sir. You are audible.
Thank you. The honorable guests of honor of the day today, Senior Advocate Shri Prabhakaran, Dr. Leena Chandran Wadia ma'am, Vice Chancellor of Central University of Kashmir, Professor Mirajuddin Mir, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Prabhukumar Agarwal, COO Bennett University, Shri Sudhanshu Verma, all other esteemed dignitaries, learned teachers, and dear students. And thank you, Professor MP, for actually setting me into motion to think about what am I going to speak. I was really trying to, after all these, learned dignitaries speaking their thoughts about the most contemporary subject which our School of Law has taken up. So what I feel as in India, how it evolved the legal education system. So earlier it used to be 2 years course, which was prevalent in the legal education, wherein only compulsory subjects were taught. But later on, I think late 40s or maybe around in 50s, so there was a thought process, and ultimately that that Law Commission of India, what we popularly know it as Settleward Commission, which recognized the need to reform the legal system, education system. So that at that point of time, there were a very dismal picture of the legal education available in India at that point of time. And consequent to the recommendations they made, they changed over to 3-year law degree courses in the year 1958. That's correctly brought out by Professor MP, the way he thought. So I also I was recollecting whatever I had learned from Punjab University exposure. So the increase of this duration it facilitated inclusion of procedural subjects into the curriculum of law school. And frankly speaking, you see, in our younger days also and earlier also, legal discipline was not a very popular choice. It was not the craze among the students till coming of the 5-year law course. So once the 5-year law course came in, there was a total transition in the legal education. And the students who were earlier, the students who were intelligent, they used to choose, either medicine, engineering, or accounting. There was hardly any craze for getting into law school. But once 5-year law came in, the things little changed. It was the total perspective got changed. And you see, and also people realize that legal education must appreciate and adopt interdisciplinary approach with other social sciences, and the aspirant advocates, they must not only familiarize themselves with the history, economics, philosophy of other intended nations, but also understand the proficiency and command over spoken and written language, the way what Wadia ma'am had also emphasized upon, that there is a requirement to learn languages. So that is also a very, very important takeaway from this. And those desirous of getting into legal education must feel comfortable in dealing with various legal systems, maybe abroad, wherever. So in my view, globalization promotes increased global competition, and it increased student and faculty mobility that would facilitate the search for excellence, which in turn would promote the creation of leading global education hubs in those countries and regions which are able to generate them. So India happens to be one of them. And with the emergence of national law schools and other institutions of higher learning in the field of law, we have already, carved a niche for ourselves. And we are the kind of, legal luminaries which are churned out from the Indian systems is anybody to, understand and they feel envy about. So, and also the National Education Policy 2020, it is the most wonderful thing which could have happened to the Indian educational facility. The way it is, the learning, it makes the learning to be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. So broadly, like there are a lot of significant changes, and legal education would not be an exception in this case. So NEP will change legal education also in more than one way. So a major role has to be played by the Bar Council of India in incorporating the changes envisaged in the NEP into the legal education of India. So as per my understanding, how I see about it is, so there are two things majorly. And firstly, I would also want to emphasize that we have got three kinds of institutions in India. One for the legal education, national law in universities, state and central universities, and then the private universities. They either offer 3-year law program or they offer 5-year integrated law programs. And this approach of offering combined degrees will be quite a challenge in light of implementation of NEP by all these three types of institutions. You see, NEP stipulates that no professional education institution will be stand-alone institutions and has to be converted into multidisciplinary institutions. All national law universities will face a serious problem in implementing this specific norm, as most of them are highly specialized with limited infrastructure and resources. Most of them are provided with initial grants by the state governments, and simultaneously they are also working on self-financed models to sustain themselves. So this move would necessitate that the respective state government would provide additional support to these institutions financially and help them procure the necessary facilities to become multidisciplinary universities. That was one aspect which thought came to me. The other challenge which I also feel is that would be faced by all institutions imparting legal education is to provide multiple exit options. So as of now, individuals who have completed their law degree can only practice the legal profession after recognition by the Bar Council of India. However, Now those who would exist after 1 year or 2 years, either after getting their certificate or diploma, will have no career options suitable for their qualification. Further, the concern is that a 3-year law program, the subjects that are taught are only law subjects. Still, when it comes to a 5-year law program, in the first 2 years, most of the subjects taught are non-law subjects. So in this case, it raises a question as how can a student be provided with a certificate or a diploma in law after studying for just 2 years in such a course? So here the major issue encountered will be an arduous task of restructuring the subjects taught to facilitate multiple exit. The idea is very good, but we would have to facilitate, we'll have to incorporate. Further, most of the law subjects are interconnected and interrelated. Giving exit options will lead to a situation where it might dilute the complete understanding of the subject. So in my view, NEP has raised plethora of such questions. I have flagged only 2 of them which came to my mind immediately. And from my perspective, even though there will be undeniable challenges in implementation, NEP is a wonderful policy and will bring a positive impact on the entire education scenario of India. And we should carve our way how to incorporate and restructure our curriculum to incorporate these facets. So that is what I had to speak on this. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. You've actually raised the implementation issues of the NEP, while all our other speakers were talking about the NEP as a policy. So I think you've added a great deal to the discussion here. Thank you for giving us the time. May I now request our colleague, Ms. Bhumika Nanda, to propose a vote of thanks for this inaugural ceremony.
Thank you, ma'am. I, on behalf of School of Law and the entire conference organizing committee, and my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the guests and speakers for taking out time from their busy schedules and gracing the occasion and sharing with us your valuable inputs and observation today. We are thankful to Professor Dr. Prabhukumar Agarwal, Vice Chancellor, Bennett University, for delivering the presidential address and laying out the contours of the inaugural panel discussion. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. S. Prabhakaran, Senior Advocate, Co-Chairman in Bar Council of India, for emphasizing on the new education policy and its relevance to maintain the quality of the legal education, bar and bench, and making justice accessible to each and everyone equally. We are all grateful to Dr. Leena Chandra Wadia ma'am, Member Drafting Committee of the Draft National Education Policy 2019 and Senior Fellow Observer Research Foundation for demonstrating her experience in the drafting of the new education policy and its transformative significance on the holistic development of education system. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Miraj Uddin Mir Sir, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Kashmir, India, for giving us an excellent coverage to the diverse implications and challenges posed by the global education system for the professional legal education. I also wish to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Sridharacharyalu Sir, Professor, School of Law, Bennett University, for his take and analysis of the constitutional conspectus of the globalization on the democratic values and regulation of professional legal education in India. We are also grateful to Professor Dr. M.P. Singh, Research Professor of Law and Distinguished Scholar at OP Jindal Global University, for his presence and his views on the historical insights on the legal education and its bearing on the existing and future legal system in India. I am also grateful to Mr. Sudhanshu Verma, COO, Bennett University, and Colonel Guljeet Singh Chadda, Retired Registrar, Bennett University, for sharing their views and also for providing encouraging words. As a law student and as a professor, we are all appreciative by great words and motivated and inspired to look at the global education system and its challenges and importance in strengthening the professional legal system in India. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to Dean Ma'am, Professor Dr. Nuzhat Parveen Khan, for her support and guidance that has been extended to all of us in organizing the conference. I also extend my thanks to the conference committee organizer and especially Dr. Garima Tiwari and the team for their enormous cooperation in the organization of this event. With this, I thank you all once again and namaskar.
Thank Thank you. I see Revati ma'am is also here. Ma'am, would you like to say something? Oh, I think she's left. So Garima, you can explain the next steps.
Yes, I think, first of all, thank you everyone for joining the inaugural session. It got a bit delayed, but the technical sessions have already started. So I request all of you to move to the technical sessions. The links are already shared with you. And we will meet again as a plenary session as per the panel discussion at 2:15, where we'll have the first panel discussion on internationalization and privatization of legal education, pedagogy and practice. So I request you all to please join at 2:15 for that session then. I think for now, just move to the different technical sessions. That would, the sessions have already started, so you can just join there. Thank you so much.